up, everybody? Today we are installing a 10-point cage in La Vizca. I bought the S&W race cars 10-point cage. I bought the regular mild steel, cost me $355, and after shipping and everything it came in at like $480, I think. So this cage, I'm in a few Facebook S10 forums, and from what everybody said, S&W had the best pre-bent cage, and for $480, that's pretty cheap, I think, for a 10-point cage. It is mild steel, weighing in at about 150 pounds, so she's getting a little thick over the summer, no? Winter, I mean. So we already kind of started on this. First, I drilled 3 1/4-inch holes in the floor, and then we dropped the cage in and kind of started fitting up. I have a jack under each side, and that's kind of where I'm fitting it up from. Now I don't have the seat in here right now, but I did fit everything up with me in it, with the helmet on and the seat in. That way we could see exactly where the cage is going to fit, because there's a few rules. The cage can't be more than 6 inches away from your head. It can't be directly above or in front of you, which is kind of easy with this. And then this bar has to be no higher than your shoulders, and it can't be more than 4 inches under your shoulders. So this takes a lot of planning ahead to do any of this. Now, not every single piece of this comes notched. Most of them do, though. Yeah. So the cage is essentially going to drop through your floor, and then you're going to weld these. They come in the kit as well. Weld these to your frame, and then your cage goes welded to this plate. I did think about bolting it to this. That way I can make it like removable or whatever, but we have these bars right here, which tie this all together, and that wouldn't really allow me to lift the body anyways, because these are going to go welded right here on these 6x6-inch plates. Where are they at? Welded like that with that 6x6-inch plate right there, so then it wouldn't let me lift the body either way. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to finish welding this harness bar in. After the harness bar is welded in, we're going to lift this cage with our 2 jacks on each side, fit it right where we want it, and then tack our halo in. Once the halo's tacked in, we're going to tack in our A pillars, or I don't know what you would call these, but you guys get it. We're going to tack these in. Once that's tacked in, then we're going to tack our back braces. So once everything's tacked in and we like it, we're going to be able to drop this cage through the floor, because we're not going to weld it to the frame yet. I should be able to complete all of these welds while it's dropped. I also painted this cage before putting it in, which I don't know if that was the best idea, but I don't know. I'm pissed. Just leave it at that. I don't want to talk about this paint. Alright, so we have the cage basically where it's going to sit inside the truck. We have it up on jacks right now on both ends. We measured, make sure our measurement is the same on this side as it is on that side. Everything is level right now. We do have some areas touching the roof, but that's fine. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna tack the halo in, the one that goes up here. We're gonna tack that in. Once it's tacked in, we're just gonna leave it. After that's tacked in, we're gonna start working these pillars that come down, and then we'll tack those in, leave it, and then just keep working this cage. Alright guys, so the halo does not come notched in this kit. I did have to notch it. I just I just kept working it with the grinder till I got it, you know, as best as I could. Notching with the grinder's, you know, kind of a pain, but just do as best as you can and then just fill it in with weld. I don't know how strict they are on these welds, but you know, I've seen some pretty welds on a lot of cages, so I think we'll be alright. Weight reduction, cuh. More weight reduction, cuh. So now we just gotta make it like even this way.
Even which way?
So okay, I got same distance here as over there. Alright guys, so I just tacked the halo in, and if you can see that right there, it's fit up pretty decent, but over there we're off. So that means that this halo isn't straight, so it got twisted up a little bit, so one side's higher than the other. So that's why I went ahead and tacked it, and then now I can force that down and tack it right where I want it. We measured from, you know, kind of got a spot here. It's a little hard with this tubing, but we just kind of got a spot measured and got the same measurement on both sides. Okay, so the halo is tacked in, guys. Make sure that every tack you put in, you can grind out. That way if you mess something up, then you can just cut it out easily. Don't put a tack somewhere, it's going to be a pain in the ass to cut it out. Okay, so now it is time to drill our holes in the front for the bar that goes along the A-pillar of the truck up here like that, and hooks up right here to the halo. Now the kind of the hardest part about S10s, I guess, is everywhere where you could perfectly place this cage, there is a body mount. So like, you know, this cage would fit perfect if I could put it right here. For a lot of people, luckily for me, I'm not very tall, so I can move my seat forward. So my seat is all the way up, which allows this to be further up, and I don't have to kind of deal with that issue just because I'm not very tall. If there's a real tall person driving this, they're gonna have to move this cage back, and they're gonna have to mess with the body mounts, which are directly under here. Now the same thing happens in the front. The perfect spot to put this would basically be right here, but this little square right here, the body mount is directly under here. So you can either put it on this side, the A-pillar, which I thought about, but if I do that, it's gonna come up right here and it's gonna be kind of like in the way of my dash. It's gonna sit in my dash barely if I cut it, but it's not gonna look very good. And then my crossbar isn't gonna fit in there basically at all, really. It's gonna be like out here, which would look kind of dumb on the it'd be like in the middle, but not really. It'd be more out towards me, and it would not look good. So what I'm gonna do is cut this little section out right here, this little square, because this is where this right here is where the body mount ends. So I'm gonna cut out right here, and that's where we're gonna feed our cage through. then that will allow us to put the outrigger to weld it in front of the body mount. Always remember to wear a face mask when you're cutting anything, especially with a cutting wheel. You know, these things are notorious for blowing up, so unless you don't care about your face, throw on a face mask. Okay, so we have a problem now. This hole is a lot bigger than the one you guys watched me cut. So this cage, as of now, seems like it was measured or cut or bent to have this, either this body mount moved somewhere else, which I've heard of people doing, or put the cage behind it on this side, which I don't want to do because it's gonna not look good at all. So now the problem that I'm having is, if I put it in there, I only have about 1.5 inches going down, which will barely be enough to reach. That will barely be enough to reach the outrigger if I weld it on the highest spot of the frame. Now, up here, I don't have much room left, so I can notch it and see what happens. And then the other problem I'm having is, I think that's gonna hit the windshield if it were to sit where it's at right now. But to be honest with you guys, what I'm gonna do is just start notching that top piece and see if I can hopefully make it work so that I can put it where I want it. Okay, so I was beginning to get a little frustrated with this just because of the way it fits, but I just decided to tack it in already, guys. So this is how much we're sticking out at the window, at the windshield. So the cage, if you guys remember, is touching in just about every spot up here. So I hope I can drop this down just enough to clear a glass windshield. And if not, well then it is what it is. And I'm gonna have to run a Lexan windshield, but I mean, you know, to me it's not that bad. I'd rather have a Lexan windshield than to have these bars way back here. They would literally end up like, let's see. So this line right here is the end of the body mount. So that tube would end up right in here. And you know, I just think it looks a lot better the way I have it. I'm a little disappointed with the S&W cage. You know, if this angle was a little bit different, this would work a little bit better. You know, we could angle this different and it'd work better. I did think of just going out and buying material and finding somebody to bend this and bending my own A-pillars, but you know, that kind of defeats the purpose of buying a pre-bent cage. So I'm just gonna work with what I got. So now what's left is to tack in the dash bar, which is gonna run from probably right around here all the way directly across to that one. And then we gotta put in our rear braces. I'm gonna have to take out my toolbox. That's probably gonna be gone now. Or I might flip it sideways because it comes in handy. You know, I can put a lot of stuff in there, a bunch of tools. And it's nice for racing, but hopefully I can flip it and then fit it vertically. But now we're gonna tack in the crossbars. And back here, obviously I'm gonna run plexiglass. This I don't mind at all. I just wanted a glass windshield, but obviously it's not gonna happen. As far as now, it's probably not gonna happen. So now I have my crossbar notched and fitted up. Now I'm not gonna tack it in just yet, because if I tack that in, then it's gonna hit right here on this piece, which holds up the this right here, which holds up our steering column, and then it's not gonna allow me to drop the rest of the cage so we can weld up above. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop the cage now completely, weld these 4 joints, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then after that's done, or actually I'm gonna tack in these back ones too, the back braces, and then we'll be able to weld all those completely. And once that's done, I'm gonna put this in last. So I may not be able to weld back here because this is damn tight. So what's gonna end up happening is, if I can't, if I can maybe kind of get enough weld back there to where it looks like it's completely welded at least, it's not gonna look very good, but as long as it's welded all the way around, it should pass. But if it doesn't, what I'm gonna have to do is put a gusset on these. So through NHRA, 1 gusset can make up for 25% of a weld. So if it's not welded all the way around, you just have to gusset everything. So that goes for any of these bars really. Let's say, I don't know, in some cases, other cages or whatever, if you can't get, there's just some spots you just simply can't weld, so then you just got to put gussets in it for them. So for now, we're gonna start working these up back here and get them all tacked in. I just put these bars in just to kind of see sort of where they're gonna be. Anyways, the outside edge of the frame runs right along this wheel well. So, this is just gonna give me an idea of where to cut. So I'm gonna cut right here, find my frame. And once I find the frame, then I'll actually fit this up. These got to be parallel, so you want to have the same measurement all the way up. And then after I find where, we're gonna work them until they're this fits perfectly flat, because it doesn't fit perfectly flat just yet. You got to work this this angle just a little bit. Guys, for these back bars, how we're gonna do it is we're gonna put one in first, and from the edge of the frame, I'm gonna pick where I want to put it on the frame, and from the edge of the frame I'll measure to my tube, which is about 1/4 inch is what it looks like, 1.25 inches. So then you want to have that 1.25 inches just about all the way up. That way it's, for the most part, it's square, and once you got that, then you can tack it in. Okay, so obviously the little tacks actually pulled it a little bit, but I can still shimmy it around right back to where it was. So now what we have to do is go to that side, measure the same distance from the edge of the frame to the tube, and then we'll measure 1.25 inches from here to here, and then make sure we have the same distance at the bottom as the top. So So we'll measure here, we'll measure in the middle, and then we'll measure at the top and make sure we have the same measurement all the way through. So then what we can do now is just tack it exactly how we did this one, and then they'll both end up pulling probably towards each other. But once I'm ready to weld these to the frame is when I'll make sure that they're parallel by measuring in between each one of them. So let's just tack that one right now. I'm gonna start the same way, even though it's probably gonna pull on me. We have 3/8 there. Out a little bit. Towards you. Right there. And then we'll get 1.25" from the wheel well in more than one spot. Alright guys, so there it is, fully dropped in the truck, and now I am able to weld everything from right here. So everything will be fully welded. Everything is nice and accessible. Let's get it.
Didn't get it food for moral support.
From where?
Moral support.
About to start filming, and the boys came through with some good moral support. Let's go. Alright guys, so I have everything tacked. I lifted the cage back up, so now I'm just gonna fit everything up, make sure it's right where I want it, and then I'm gonna tack on the cage, all four corners to the outriggers, and then the outriggers to the frame. And I do have all the body mounts unbolted, that way whenever I have that all tacked, I can then lift the body and weld around all that. Alright guys, we're gonna have a little intermission here. I'm gonna tell you guys about a little drinking game, a little garage drinking game me and the boys came up with. So every time you open a beer, you gotta open it with a different item in your garage. So you pick up a new random whatever it is, and crack open your beer. Took 2 tries. So every time you open a beer, you gotta open it with something else. And no, you can't get a 14 wrench and then a 15 and then a 16 and then a 17. That doesn't count. You know, if you get one thing, you gotta get a different thing the next time. And once you grab something, you can't give up on it. It doesn't matter if it takes you an hour or whatever to open it. But once you grab something, you can't give up on it. And if you do give up on it, you gotta chug that beer. So yeah, have fun and drink up, guys. Cheers. Also, that is a game for people of age to drink.
So that's how my outrigger looks, fully welded to the frame. You guys can see that outrigger too, fully welded. Everything's fully welded around. So I got the whole cage welded to the frame at all 4 corners. The only ones I gotta finish right now are these back here. You can see a little bit of it is hard to reach. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here, take the wheel off, and I'm gonna cut this little lip right here. Right where the cage sits, I'll cut a section of this lip off, and that should give me enough room to just fit the gun in there and finish fully welding that all the way around. Now, if you guys remember, this cage is touching in many places up on the roof and up here too. So what I did, I went to my local audio store and I bought myself some Dynamat. This is a knockoff. It's like Moji mat or something like that, but you know, it should work for what I'm doing. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lift the body back up off of the frame, and then I'll have space in between the cage now again. And I'm gonna put pieces of Dynamat everywhere that this cage is touching. So that's gonna hopefully help us not have so many vibration issues. And if we do, then, you know, I don't know how else I can solve that. But for now, that's all I can think of. And really, and if it does have a lot of vibration, I'm just gonna have to live with it, because after these pieces right here, after these pieces are welded in, the body won't lift from the frame anymore. So it's basically welded all together. So make sure if you gotta do this, don't weld in your crossbar or these back ones. The crossbar, because you can't lift the body, because the crossbar is gonna run right above this steering column right here, and it'll hit right here if you try to lift the body after that. And then after that, it's set for good. So whatever you need to do, whether you need to weld, add Dynamat like I'm doing, whatever you need to do up here, you got to do it now before you fully weld the bottom. So I'm gonna add one more thing to this, and that is cardboard. So now we're gonna have the Dynamat back here, and then I'm gonna put a piece of cardboard in here. That way, whenever I paint all the rest of these welds, we'll have something to cover up there, and then the cardboard, I'll be able to tear it out.
I'm just here for moral support.
Down, the boys always pulling through with the brewskis. Let's get it.
Let's get it.
I just want to show you guys how I finished this weld right here. I took my wheel off and I made a little slit, made a little cut right in here, and then now that allows me to access the rest of this joint, and then I can finish welding it completely. So I'm gonna do that before I weld these in. There's that little lip I cut out, and now that fits in there perfect. And then we can weld these crossbars in, finish welding the back up, and then weld our dash bar in, and the cage will be done. Now I have these plates fully welded in, and I tacked in this first brace right here. Now, before you weld this, you're gonna want to make sure, I personally had a little bit of wires running on that side under the body. You're gonna make sure you didn't crush any of that. If you got any of that or whatever, you're gonna make sure you are ready to leave the body where it is, basically for good, because this is welded to your frame, and then now this will weld it to the body. So essentially this body won't lift off the frame anymore after you weld these in. So I have this one tacked in. Now this is gonna be real awkward. I was gonna weld these in before, but you know, nothing really. If I tacked, one idea I had was to tack them in here and leave them not tacked there. And then when I drop the cage, maybe it would allow me to bring all of this forward and then weld behind here. But there is a little bit of room back here. You know, it's not gonna be easy. It's gonna be a bunch of awkward little positions, but I should be able to get this fully welded around. So that side was kind of a pain, you know. I had to weld the back of it with my left hand, one-handed, and you know, the weld looked like absolute. It's welded, it's tied in, and it doesn't have a porosity back there, so I mean, that should be good enough. I hope to pass a certification inspection, but I guess we'll find out, right? Okay, so there's my crossbar. I have it, you know, kind of roughly fitted. And right now it's currently leaning on that bracket that holds up the whole steering rack. I don't want it to be touching that because, you know, that's what we're trying to avoid is vibrations. And we kind of did that with the Dynamat. Let's see how that works. But right now we can avoid touching. So what I'm gonna do is throw a level on it, make sure it's nice and level. And then I'm gonna measure, I'm gonna pick a spot on both sides that I can measure from. That is, you know, for the most part, even on both sides. That way I can get it as straight and level as possible. I'm gonna do an inch from this little lip right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's this little lip that runs right above here, right above the dash. I'm gonna do an inch down from this corner right here. And then I'll do the same on that side, and as long as it's level, we can weld it in. Small little tack, and then I'm gonna go over to the other side. Put your level on. So if I measure 1 inch, this should be pretty damn level. Here we are, both equal measurement on both sides and level. Now I'm gonna weld this in. This is another one back here is gonna be hard to get to, you know, it's gonna be a huge pain. I hope I can get this whole weld. If not, we're gonna have to throw a gusset in here. I don't really want to do that, but if I do, then it is what it is. So now it's time to weld this door bar in, and that's gonna cross from about here, and it's gonna weld to that one. Now, I don't know for what reason this is extremely long. I'm talking like a foot. S&W says you can put a bend in this, but if I had a bender to put a bend in this, I wouldn't have bought a cage from S&W, so that didn't make any sense to me. But anyways, I'm just gonna take a measurement here and then cut this to length and notch it down there, and then we'll weld it in. Now we are about to put our seat in before we fully weld in the door bar. So I went with this Jig Seat. Looks just like a Kirky. It's basically a Kirky, but cheaper. I paid 140 for the seat and like 65 bucks for the cover. Kirkies are like 150 for the seat and like 120 for the cover. Now, if you're a broke boy like me, but you want to flex and pretend you got money, you can buy the Jig Seat, but buy a Kirky cover. But I just went Jigs everything and it saved me some money. Now, to mount this seat, we're going to do this same system right here, just bent up flat strap. This is going to go, I need to cut it, but it's going to basically fit under this bolt hole, and then I'm going to weld it to gonna weld it to the floor. So go like that. So I need to make just 4 more of these, and then I'll have this seat mounted right about there is where I want it. So also, before you put your crossbar in, that's why I'm putting this seat in. You gotta sit in it. The door bar goes in between your elbow and your shoulder. That way you'll pass. If it's above or below, you fail inspection. So my seat is fully bolted in right where I want it. Now I'm gonna put this crossbar kinda in here, and I'm gonna see if where I like it, if it'll pass the requirements. I want it right about there. If you guys can see, my elbow is under it and my shoulder is above it, so it crosses right in between both of them. Now I can either mark this with a Sharpie or just kind of memorize where it's going to be at. Then I'm going to get out and tack it. I memorized it as mine personally aligns with the harness bar. So the top of it will align with a harness bar, and that's where I'll tack. So for this side, this bar is level all the way across. You know, my roof hoop touches in the same spot almost all the way across. So this is where that one is, and that's where I put this one, right where the top of our harness bar is the top of our door bar. That's how the driver's side was, so that's how I did the passenger side. And I just notched the bottom. They were both about 51 inches for me, you guys. So I just cut them the same length, notched them, and now it's all fully welded. And now my entire cage is officially fully welded. So now, guys, I just want to... So now I kind of just want to go over like the installation, how I feel about it, if I think it was easy or hard or whatever. I removed both my windshield and my back window. So if you're going to do this installation, you're going to have to remove your back window for sure. Your windshield, so the main reason I removed my windshield was because it was done. It flew open last season twice. I replaced it once, and then it flew open again and broke, you know, shattered my windshield, and they were already giving me crap about it at the track. So I was like, you know what, we gotta install this, and it's probably gonna make the install easier, and it definitely did. You know, it helps me reach in some areas and things like that. And now I can't even run a glass windshield, as you guys saw in this video, because of how some of this stuff worked out. So as far as installation, I'd consider it pretty easy all around. Actually, you know, everything fit pretty good, you know. I mean, it's a pre-bent cage. I can't expect everything to fit on the dime, but I am disappointed in that A-pillar bar, you know, especially because I didn't want to run a Lexan windshield. If that bar just had like a few degrees less in it, then I would have been able to run it a little bit straighter, and it would have been able to clear to the front of that body mount. So that's not a problem for those of you guys that don't care, and you're gonna put that pillar bar behind the body mount, and then, you know, that's gonna make your door bar a lot shorter, and it's gonna make your dash bar, the one that runs across the dash, a lot closer to you. So that was the other reason, is I still want my stock dash. I like how it looks. I want to keep, you know, making it look nice. If you have an aluminum dash, or if you plan on making an aluminum dash, then it's not a huge problem that we're gonna put that dash bar so far up. But for me, if I were to do that, it would be basically outside of my dash, and I was not gonna be able to live with that. And then I would have to cut the dash way too perfect, and that dash is way too old to try and be doing like super precise cuts. But other than that, guys, it was I think it's a great kit. If I don't know if I'd buy it again. I'd probably buy half of it, you know, what I like, how it fits, and then everything else I would just leave. And really, it's just the A-pillar bars that kind of bugged me. So if I could buy it with everything except those bars and make my own, then yeah, I would definitely buy it again for another S10 if I ever found myself doing one. Just because it's so cheap, guys. It's $355. After shipping, I paid about $480, so it was like what is that, like $120, $130 in shipping? You know, it's not a bad price at all for a pre-bent cage that fits almost perfect. You know, I wish they would have notched a few more things, like the bars back here, guys. You know, these, I wish that angle had already come cut, but I mean, I had to do that. I wish the halo would come notched. You know, I had to notch the halo. The one that makes sense is the dash bar because of where you're gonna place those A-pillar bars. You know, everybody's can change distance, so the dash bar is fine that it wasn't notched. But definitely the halo and the two back braces, I wish they were completely just done, ready to get put in. But even though they weren't, you know, it wasn't a bad installation process. So yeah, that's how I installed my S&W cage, S&W race cars 10-point cage into my 91 S10. If anybody that's watching this video installs cages, or if anybody has, you know, a recommendation for somebody doing one, something you would do different than I did that would make this easier, I would like to know. And you know, for whoever else is watching this, they'd probably like to know too. So just go ahead and leave that in the comments. Thank you all for watching. Se la lavan.